I didn't know bones could make a sound like that. Not until the forest snapped them only a few feet behind me. That's the first thing you need to understand. When something in the woods decides it wants you, it doesn't stalk you the way animals do. Stalks you the way people do. Slow, patient, studying your every move, waiting for the exact second your guard drops. And on that night, standing in the middle of Black Ridge Forest with my flashlight shaking in my hand, I realized something horrifying. Whatever was behind me wasn't an animal, and it wasn't human either. I could hear its breathing, uneven, wet, almost hungry. The kind of breathing that sounds like it's tasting the air instead of inhaling it. Every exhale felt closer than the last. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I didn't even breathe. Because the moment I did, I heard it step forward slowly, deliberately, as if it had been waiting for me to acknowledge it. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I felt dizzy. The forest around me, once alive with wind and rustling leaves, went dead silent. The kind of silence that isn't natural. The kind that tells you something is terribly, impossibly wrong. I tightened my grip on the flashlight. For a moment I thought about turning around. About shining the beam behind me and seeing what had been following me for the last hour. But I couldn't. Something inside me, instinct, fear, maybe survival itself, kept screaming. If you look at it, you won't leave this forest alive. That's when I heard it whisper. Not words. Not anything human. Just a low, throaty sound that felt like it was vibrating inside my chest. My legs nearly gave out. I tried to steady my breathing, tried to keep my mind from spiraling, but then, a hand, cold, impossibly thin and covered in something damp, touched the back of my neck. It wasn't a grab. Not an attack. Just a touch. A deliberate, curious touch, like it was trying to understand what I was. I felt my entire body lock up. Every instinct in me lit on fire. I wanted to scream, run, collapse, anything, but I couldn't do a single thing. I was frozen, paralyzed by something far older and far hungrier than fear. Then it leaned forward. I didn't hear it move. Didn't hear it step. But I could feel it. Its presence, its size, its breath crawling up the back of my neck. My vision blurred. My pulse hammered. I knew without a doubt that if I stayed still one more second, that thing would wrap its fingers around my spine and pull. So I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't dare. I just tore through the trees like my life depended on it, because it did. Branches slapped my face. Roots tore at my ankles. My lungs felt like they were ripping apart. But behind me, I heard it move. Fast. Too fast. Not running. Not chasing. Gliding. Like its feet didn't touch the ground at all. And that's when I understood the truth about the forest that night. There are things out here that don't want to kill you. They want to keep you. And once they find you, you never walk out alone. Before that night, before the forest showed me what really lived inside it, my life was painfully ordinary. My name is Ethan Ward, and I'm the kind of person you'd never expect to end up in something like this. No military training. No survival experience. No dramatic backstory. Just a 28-year-old outdoor hobbyist who liked hiking on weekends and posting pretty trail pictures online. That's all. I wasn't looking for danger. I wasn't chasing thrills. I was just trying to unplug from my job for a few days. I'm a remote graphic designer, basically glued to my screen 10 hours a day, and the burnout had finally hit the point where my brain felt like static. So I figured, a solo forest trip will clear my head. Fresh air. No notifications. No clients. Just quiet. That was the plan. The place I chose was Black Ridge Forest, a sprawling woodland in northern Montana. A beautiful place during the day, tall pine trees, crisp air, soft trails, quiet streams. A photographer's paradise. A hiker's dream. It was around 5:30 p.m. when I reached the trailhead. Still plenty of sunlight left. The sky was warm pink, with streaks of gold filtering through the treetops. The woods looked peaceful, almost gentle, like they were inviting me in. I parked my Jeep, grabbed my backpack, double-checked my gear, tent, water, camera, food, flashlight, the basics. I wasn't deep woods camping. Just a simple overnight stay in a designated clearing about 2 miles in. My mood was relaxed. Calm. Content. Honestly, I felt good. Better than I had in weeks. As I walked down the trail, the fresh scent of pine and damp earth filled the air. Birds chirped overhead. A squirrel darted across the path. The forest was alive in the friendliest way possible. No tension. No fear. Just peace. Every so often I stopped to take pictures. A sunbeam catching on moss. A fallen log covered in bright green lichen. A cluster of mushrooms glowing softly in the light. Nature felt gentle, familiar, safe. By 7 p.m. I reached the clearing. It was small but perfect. A soft patch of grass surrounded by tall trees that swayed slightly with the breeze. I set up my tent, built a small fire, and settled down with a packet of dehydrated chili. Not gourmet dining, but it felt perfect for the moment. As dusk settled in, the light dimmed into a cool blue haze. Fireflies blinked lazily between the trees. The crackling fire warmed the air, popping softly every few seconds. I stretched out beside it, backpack under my head, and listened to the quiet rhythm of the wilderness. For a moment I forgot about deadlines, emails, clients, and everything stressful in my life. It was just me, the forest, and the soft hum of nighttime settling in. I remember thinking, why don't I do this more often? Felt safe. Felt normal. Even comforting. If someone had tapped me on the shoulder right then and told me what the next few hours would bring, what I would hear, what I would see, what would chase me through those trees, I would have laughed. Because in that moment, sitting by the fire with the stars slowly coming out, I believed the forest was peaceful. I believed the night would be calm. I believed I was alone. And that's exactly how the forest wanted me to feel. It started so small, so subtle, that I almost didn't notice it. It was around 9:15 p.m. The fire had burned down to a soft orange glow, just enough to keep the clearing warm. I was sitting with my back against my backpack, scrolling through the pictures I'd taken earlier. Everything felt normal. But then I heard it. A single sharp crack from the trees behind my tent. Like someone stepped on a thick branch. I froze, head tilted slightly. The forest went quiet around me, a little too quiet, but only for a moment. Probably a deer, I told myself. Montana woods were full of them. A twig snap was nothing unusual. I went back to my photos. Another sound. This time softer. A slow dragging noise like something brushing through dry leaves. I lifted my head again. Silence. The kind of silence that feels like a held breath. I waited, listening. My heartbeat thudded lightly in my chest. Not from fear, just alertness. Raccoon, I whispered. Or a fox. But the noise didn't quite match either of those. Raccoons skitter. Foxes pad lightly. This was heavier. Still I tried to shake it off. I was alone in the woods at night. Of course everything would sound creepy. That was normal. I stood up, stretched, and checked the edges of the clearing. Nothing. Just tall trees, darkness, and faint outlines fading into the distance. I took a deep breath. The air suddenly felt colder than before, sharp, almost metallic. A chill crawled across my shoulders. Then something else changed. The breeze stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. The forest went perfectly, unnaturally still. No rustling leaves. No swaying branches. No distant owls or insects. Just stillness. Like the entire forest was holding its breath again. My skin prickled. A quiet sense of unease pushed gently into my thoughts, the way a shadow touches the ground before the figure casting it appears. I rubbed my arms and sat back down. This is stupid, I muttered. Just nighttime settling in. But even as I said it, I kept glancing toward the treeline. My eyes searching for movement. My ears straining for sound. And then a faint tap. Like a fingertip tapping bark. Once, twice, 3 times. From a tree directly behind me. My breath hitched. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to. A familiar sensation crept up my spine. The feeling of being watched. Not casually. Not curiously. But intensely. Like eyes were locked on me from somewhere deep in the dark. I wiped my palms on my jeans. The air felt heavier now. Not threatening, just wrong. Subtly, unmistakably wrong. I leaned forward and poked the fire, sending a few sparks upward. The light flared a little, illuminating the edges of the clearing. No animals. No movement. Nothing. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had quietly shifted around me. Something I wasn't seeing but could feel. Almost touching the edges of my awareness. Like the forest had drawn a circle around my little campsite and was slowly, deliberately tightening it. Another soft sound broke the silence. A gentle rustling, not chaotic like an animal, more methodical. like something moving slowly, brushing each branch on purpose. I swallowed hard. The unease settled deeper in my chest. Not enough to panic, but enough to keep me on edge, sitting a little straighter, breathing a little slower. A part of me wanted to call out, yell something into the woods just to break the tension. But another part whispered, "Don't. Not yet." So I stayed quiet, watching, listening, waiting, feeling the forest shift around me in a way I couldn't explain. The night was still peaceful, but no longer safe. I don't know what made me shine the flashlight into the trees. Maybe instinct. Maybe fear finally pushing through the last thin layer of denial. But the moment the beam cut through the darkness, everything changed. The light hit the tree-lean, tall trunks, thick branches, nothing unusual. I scanned left, slow, controlled, then right, and that's when I saw it. Two eyes. Not animal eyes. Not glowing like a predator, but reflective like glass catching the beam. High up. Far too high for any creature that belonged in that forest. I froze. The eyes didn't blink, didn't move, didn't react to the light at all. They just stared. My mouth went dry. My grip tightened on the flashlight until my knuckles whitened. For a second I told myself it was a trick, moisture on bark, a reflection, something harmless. But then the eyes shifted. Not a step. Not a flinch. Just a slow, deliberate tilt. As if whatever was watching me had cocked its head to the side in curiosity. My stomach dropped. The air around me suddenly felt thick, suffocating, almost heavy enough to feel like weight pressing against my chest. The night, once cool and clean, now tasted stale and rotten. I stood up slowly. The eyes moved. A shape stepped forward, not fully into the light, but just enough for me to see the outline. Long, tall. Too tall. Its shoulders were narrow, body thin, arms hanging a little too low, like joints bent in ways they shouldn't. The silhouette rippled in the shadows as if its skin didn't cling to its body correctly. A cold shiver rippled through me. "Hey!" I shouted, voice cracking. "Back off." For a moment, the forest stayed silent. Then it took a step toward me. Not a normal step. Not the sound of boots or hooves or paws. It was a shift, like something dragging its weight forward without lifting its feet. I stumbled backward, nearly falling into the fire. "Stay back!" I yelled louder. The creature didn't slow. It stepped closer, closer, until the light brushed against the edge of its face. And I saw it. Skin wasn't skin. It looked stretched, thin, like pale cloth pulled too tight over bone. The face was long, hollow, jaw slightly open as if frozen mid-scream. Its eyes, those reflective eyes, weren't eyes at all. They were glassy, empty, like something staring through me rather than at me. My breath shook. This wasn't a deer. Wasn't a person. Wasn't anything I had a name for. The creature leaned forward, its spine cracking with a wet, brittle sound. Its head twitched, jerking in tiny, unnatural snaps as if sniffing the air. For the first time I truly felt fear. Real fear. The kind that doesn't live in your chest. It lives in your bones. I backed up until my legs hit my tent. The fabric crumpled behind me. The creature's posture shifted. It straightened, and then it opened its mouth. Not to speak. Not to scream, but to breathe. A long, slow inhale that pulled the cold air toward it, dragging dry leaves across the ground in a soft swirl. It wasn't smelling me. It was tasting the space between us. Something clicked inside me. A primal alarm bell screaming one single message. Run. Because whatever stood in those shadows wasn't just watching me. It was deciding if I was worth the effort to kill. And I knew with absolute clarity that if I didn't move right now, I would never leave that forest alive. I didn't think. I just ran. My legs moved before the rest of my brain caught up. I launched myself into the dark forest, branches whipping at my face, roots catching my ankles. The flashlight beam bounced wildly, slicing through the trees in shaky streaks of white. Behind me, something huge moved. Not running, not sprinting, but following with those same heavy, dragging steps. Slow but impossibly steady, like it knew it didn't need to hurry. My breath tore in and out of my lungs. Every inhale felt like fire. I didn't look back. Looking back felt like death. I dodged around a tree, slid down a patch of loose dirt, nearly fell, caught myself, kept going. A sharp crack exploded behind me. A tree limb? No. It sounded like bones snapping. Then that awful inhale again, long and greedy, pulling the cold night with it. It was getting closer. Come on, come on, come on. I gasped, pushing harder. I spotted a narrow gap between two fallen logs and dove through it, scraping my shoulder on bark. Leaves burst into the air behind me. Something hit the logs. The entire forest seemed to tremble for a second. The thing wasn't brute fast, but it was strong. Strong enough to crush wood like stale bread. I scrambled to my feet and kept running. The flashlight flickered, no, not now, and then it died. Everything went black. I froze mid-step, disoriented, heart punching against my ribs. I spun around wildly but saw nothing, not even the faint outline of trees. Just darkness. And then a soft crunch of leaves. Right behind me. My throat locked. I dropped to the ground instantly, crawling blindly forward, hands sinking into cold mud. I pressed myself beneath a thick bush, pulling branches over my body. I forced my breathing shallow, quiet, slow. Every exhale trembled. The forest went silent. Not peaceful silence. A dead, heavy silence that wrapped itself around me like a weight. Every hair on my arm stood straight up. Then I heard it. A slow, deliberate exhale. So close that I felt the warmth of it brush the back of my neck. Tears burned my eyes. I bit down hard to stop myself from making a sound. The creature didn't move. It just stood there, breathing, tasting, deciding. Seconds stretched into something unbearable. Then a branch cracked off to the left, far away. The creature moved. Not toward the sound, but away from me, drifting like a shadow sliding across the forest floor. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. 20. I didn't dare breathe properly until a full minute passed. Then I crawled out from under the bush, shaking so hard my teeth clicked. I needed to get out. I needed light. I needed anything that wasn't this suffocating darkness. I spotted faint moonlight between the trees, an opening, maybe a path. I started toward it. Then the sound came again. A wet, dragging step. In front of me. Somehow, impossibly, it had circled around. Cut me off. A tall shape slowly unfolded from the shadows, rising like a nightmare waking up. My lungs seized. I spun left. It moved. I spun right. It matched me. It wasn't chasing me now. It was hurting me. Pushing me deeper into the forest, deeper into darkness, deeper into whatever place it wanted me. No, I choked out. Adrenaline exploded through me. I turned sharply and sprinted toward a slope I barely saw. A steep drop, maybe 10 feet. I didn't care. I threw myself off the edge. Branches slapped my face as I tumbled, rolling hard, dirt and leaves filling my mouth. I hit the ground with a painful thud, my shoulder popping as I landed, but I was still alive. Above me, something stood at the top of the slope watching. Just watching. I scrambled backward, away from it, toward a faint glow I recognized, the road. If I could reach it, if I could make it out of the trees, I had a chance. A small one, but a real one. I don't remember the last 30 seconds clearly, just the pounding of my heartbeat, the sting of cold air filling my lungs, and the desperate slap of my shoes hitting the gravel road. When I finally broke through the tree line, I fell forward onto the pavement, scraping my palms as I landed. The sudden openness felt unreal, like the world had snapped back into place after warping around me. I lay there for a moment, trembling so hard the gravel beneath me rattled. My shoulder throbbed from the fall. My throat burned from breathing. But there was one overwhelming feeling. I was out. Out of the trees. Out of that darkness. For the first time in what felt like hours, I let myself believe I might actually survive. A distant car engine hummed somewhere down the road. Civilization. Life. Normalcy. I staggered to my feet and waved weakly at the headlights approaching. It slowed, hazard lights blinking, and an older man rolled down his window. "Jesus, kid, you all right?" he asked, eyes wide. "You look like you've been mauled." I tried to speak, but the words tangled in my throat. It was in the woods," I finally whispered. "What was?" I shook my head. "I don't know." He helped me into the truck and drove me straight to the ranger station. My entire body felt numb, like I had left some part of myself behind in the forest. Inside, the rangers checked me over and listened to everything I said. Every detail. Every sound. Every second. They exchanged looks. Not disbelief exactly, but confusion. "We'll send a team out right now," one of them said. And they did. A full search crew, heading straight toward the slope I'd rolled down, flashlights cutting through the night. I waited inside the station, wrapped in a blanket, sipping hot water I could barely swallow. An hour passed. Then two. Finally, the search team returned, and the lead ranger gave me a look I'll never forget. "There's nothing," he said quietly. "What do you mean nothing?" I asked. "No footprints. No broken branches. No disturbed brush. No signs of an animal. No signs of a person." He hesitated. "We didn't even see the impression from your fall. Like the slope hasn't been touched in days." My stomach twisted. "I was there," I insisted. "I rolled down it. I landed. We found the road." He cut in softly. "And we found you. But nothing else." I stared at him, feeling the warmth drain out of my body. Maybe they missed something. Maybe whatever was out there covered its tracks. Or maybe it never needed tracks in the first place. They offered me a bed for the night, but I refused. I wanted to leave that place behind as fast as I could. Before I left, though, I stepped outside for a moment, just to breathe something that wasn't recycled air. The forest loomed across the road, still dark, silent. Not hostile. Not welcoming. Just watching. I turned to go back inside when something caught my eye. Right at the tree line. Two small, faint reflections. Like eyes. Not bright enough to be an animal. Too high off the ground to be a deer. Too still to belong to anything living. They didn't blink. They didn't move. They just stared. I stepped back into the station, heart hammering. "Everything okay?" a ranger asked. I forced a nod. But as I sat down, I realized something that made my skin crawl. Those eyes, they weren't staring at the station. They were staring at me. And the horrible sinking feeling hit me all at once. I don't think it ever stopped following me. Not in the woods. Not on the road. Not even now. Maybe it's still out there. Maybe it's closer than I think. Maybe it's waiting. And maybe it's not done with me yet.